Okay, the Boyd is gefahren berghof. The carriage traveled down the mountain. Die Sonne hat sich durchgesiegen durch der Leibwind und die Jiden haben gezählt mit dem nogendicken Nigen vom Kinos, mit Anusach von Avelim. The sun came in through the canvas, I guess, of the carriage, and the Jews that Yaakov was traveling with, they talked, or they told, with a very sad tune or a very sad melody from Keynote, with the nusach, the feeling. How would you say that? The
Style.
Say again.
Style.
The style of mourning. Alle Rede haben sich ausgelost mit dem eigenen. All the talk was finished in the same way, with the same word. Der Harget, killed. Von Mal zu Mal is gefallen a word. From time to time, there was a word. Gestorben in the Megefa, died in the epidemic. Ja, der Malchamovis hat getun das Seinike. The angel of death did its work. Noch die Schritas und Sreifos haben sich angehäuben, die Untergang. Even after the slaughter and the fire became the decline, the ruin. Menschen seien gefallen wie die Fliegen. People fell like flies. Es ist Jaakovin schwer gewesen, zu benehmen, wie es hat noch emes gekonnt bleiben, noch die alle Schleck und Verwistenchen. It was hard for Yaakov to grasp how anybody remained after the calamity and the devastations, the destruction. Aber es allemol do asheris hapliti is always remains there always is a remainder. There's always a remainder.
Survivor?
Say again?
Or survivor?
Survivors. It's yeah, a group that remains. Die Erzähler haben sich wie gebeugen unter der eigenen Last. The speakers seem to bend under their own weight. Yaakov hat tief herabgelost im Kopf. Yaakov bowed down his head deeply. Josefov is mehr nicht gewesen Josefov, nor an anderer Städter. His town was no longer the town that he knew, but another Städter. Yaakov is wie Choni Hamogel, was is abgeschlafen 70 Jahre und is aufgestanden zu a fremd door. It was as though Yaakov was like, Choni Hamogel, the second temple miracle worker, who do you want to talk about why it's called I don't know if we want to. Anyway, who fell asleep and for 70 years. And when he woke up to a new generation. It was, everything had passed him by. That was the way Yaakov felt. Von alles is gehad geworden ash. From everything had become ashes. von der Schule, von Beis Midrash, von Bod, von Hegdesh, from the shul, from the synagogue, from the study hall, from the bathhouse, even from the Hegdish. I was thinking the Hegdish is the place where people stayed, when they came for Shabbos. Afilu de Matzevus auf einen guten Ort haben die Reutschim herausgerissen. Even these tombstones on the cemetery, the murderers pulled out. Und the Sifrei Torah und die Sforim in Beis Midrash hat man nicht übergelost, kein Shema. I don't know if I have pronounced that properly. From the holy books, from the Torah scrolls and the holy books in the study hall, nothing remained. Die Stadt is full mit Amerisim, Arsim, Meshugaim, crippling. The city was filled with people, boorish people, crazy people, cripples. Einer von den Jiden hat a Frage getun. One of the Jews asked a question. Was ist das uns gekommen? Huh? Why did this happen to us? Josephus is gewähnt a Mokum Torah. Our city, Josephus was a place of Torah, of learning. It is a Gezerah von Himmel. It was an evil decree from heaven. But it's Vetel geantwortet. The second answered. Aber favors, why did this happen? Wo seinen Nebech schuldig, the kleine Kinder? Why were the little children guilty? Die Roshim haben sie begraben, Lebendigkeit. The wicked people, the Cossacks, buried them alive. 3 Tage hat sich geschockelt der Berg hinteren Schulhof. For 3 days, shook the mountain under the court of the Schulhof. Bei Nachum Barisches haben sie herausgerissen die Zunge von Moel. Nachum Barisches mouth, they ripped the tongue from his mouth. Bele Moshe Itches haben sie die Brüstin abgeschnitten. The Balaam, Moshe Itch's wife, they cut off her breasts. Was haben wir sie getun für schlecht? What did we do to them that was so bad? Es ist nicht gewesen, kein Entfer auf die dosige Fragenischen. There was no answer to these questions. It is als ein groß Rettenisch. It's all one big riddle. The menschliche Yesorim, the menschliche Rasheus, the struggles, say again?
The humans.
The human suffering and human evil. Die Jiden haben aufgehäubt die Augen und geguckt auf Jakobin. A Stegel, wir sie wollten gewahrt, soll etwas suchen. The Jews lifted their eyes and looked at Yaakov as though they thought that or hoped that he would have something to say. Aber hat gesessen und gestummt. But he sat and was silent. Then Yaakov hat Wanden gegeben zu verstehen, als es kann nicht sein, kein freie Obkleub, onschlechts, als es kann nicht geben, kein Genod, wenn es ist nicht du kein Umrecht. When Yaakov, and we read this, explained to Wanda that there couldn't be any free will without evil, and there couldn't be any grace without a lack of righteousness. Is sich in Yaakovin vorgekommen, als das is der Bescheid. That's what he thought was the solution that to her question when she asked that question. Or maybe it's Bescheid. Aber die dosike Shuva hat sich ihm jetzt ausgewiesen zu glattig und wie a Stück Lästerung. But now, and when he looked at it, that answer looked to him just simple-minded, too glottic, that was not complex enough, and also blasphemous. Konish der Bashefel an plecken seine midos on hadaimikis, couldn't God reveal his midot, his qualities, his good qualities, without the Cossacks? Müssen der Vereuchlicher begraben werden, Labeldickheit. Was it necessary that little children had to be buried alive? Yaakov hat jetzt gesehen in Dimion die eigene Kinder. Yaakov now saw his own children in his imagination, in his mind. Yitzchakelin, Breinelin, und das Pitzles. The Pitzels. He saw his own children, Yitzchak, Brina, and the little one. Wie mi warmt sie rein in a leimige grob und mi parshit mit that they threw them into a muddy hole and covered it with dirt. Hat wie gehört sehr verstickte Geschrei. He heard their muffled cries. Afilu wenn the Neshamas von die dosige Kinder sollen aufgehen in die Leuterster Hichlis und kriegen dem größten Schar, even when these souls, the souls of these children would go to the heights and receive the greatest rewards, kann das nicht abwischen die Angst, the Vetik, der Gräuel. It couldn't do away with the anguish and the hurt and the horror. Yaakov hat sich jetzt gewundert, wie soll hat in de 5 Jahren auf ein Rege gekonnt vergessen unsere. How? Now he thought to himself, how in this 5 years, the 5 years when he was in captivity, how could he have forgotten them? In der dosigen Vergessen liegt euch a Stück Melderei. In this forgetfulness, there was also a kind of murder. Ich bin euch Rotzeach. I'm also a murderer. Hat zu sich gemurmelt. He muttered to himself. Ich bin wie einer von sie, a Haidama. I'm just like them. I'm just like one of these Cossacks. A little harsh on himself.
This is
Der Pesach ist schon gehabt der Rebel und der Schwur ist euch. So Pesach was already passed. It's of course, the freeing at the time of Pesach. He sets it there, Bashevis. And also Shavuos is past. In Onheb hat jeder Tag ausgewiesen Jacobin so lang und voll mit Trafen wie ein Jahr. In the beginning, each day was seemed to him to be filled with enough happenings for a year. Jede Show, jede Minute hat gebringt mit sich neue Sachen. Every hour, even every minute, brought with its new things. Oder zurückgebrochen, das halb vergessene, or brought something that had been half forgotten. Etwas a Kleinigkeit, sich umzukehren von dorfischer Knechtschaft zurück zu Jiddischkeit, jiddische Svorim, Malbushim, Yamin Tovim. It's not a small thing to come back from village slavery in the village, to Jews, to Jewish life, to Jewish books, to Jewish clothing, to the holidays. And Yaakov is gesessen in der Stall auf den Berg oder unter in Shire, when Yaakov was sitting in the barn on the mountain or in the granary below, hat sich ihm oft ausgedacht, als es ist nicht geblieben von dem allem in kein Sache. When he was sitting in those places, he often thought that nothing remained of those memories. Nothing was there anymore. Chmelnitzki und die Haidamkas haben alles aufgewischt, nicht übergelost, kein Anregung. The Chmelnitzki and the Cossacks had wiped out everything, and nothing remained. There was no, isn't Antringung refuge? Nothing remained.
There was no trace. The way I've looked it up, it said Antringung could be escape or trace. No trace.
No trace. No trace. Ein andermal ist ihm vorgekommen, als das als was hat übergelebt, früher ist gewesen nicht mehr wie Chalom. And sometimes he would think that everything that he had lived before was just a dream. Mit einmal hat wiedergetragen a jiddische Tracht, gekommen in jiddische Kehilos, gedavent in Schulen, Batei Midrashim, gelernt in heilige Sforen, gelegt Tvilin, angetun Tzitzis, gegessen glatt kosher. And now, wait a minute, Mitamo, now he was wearing Jewish clothing. He came to a Jewish crowd, a Jewish congregation. He davened in shul. He went to the Beis Midrash. He learned in the holy books. He put on tefillin and tzitzis, and he ate kosher. Der Weg von Jakob zurück kein Yesufels hat sich gezeugen wie ein langer Yom Tov. The path from Krakow back to Yosef's was just like, it stretched out like one long holiday. In jeder Stadt seinen Jakobin Kegenkugen, dem Rav, und der Kahallite. In every town, there came to him the rabbi and the people of the congregation. Hat eingerichtet für sein Kavod wegen Seudos. They made for him beasts. Hat verlangt von ihm, soll halten droshes. They requested that he give talks. Weiber haben gebracht zu ihm Kinder. Soll sie benchen. Women brought their children to him that he should bless them. Die, was geben sich auf mit Segulas, haben ihm zugetragen Matthäus, sticklich Bruststein, soll sie anrühren und absprechen. Those who believed in mementos or amulets, I guess it is, amulets, would bring him coins and pieces of amber that he should put his hands on it and keep off the evil eye. Machmus mir hat mehr nicht gekonnt tun, kein Genod, jene von seinen umgekommen, al Kiddush Hashem, because they couldn't do anything anymore for those who had died, blessing God's name. Hat men ausgelost das gute Gemüt zu die, was mir hat ausgelöst von Gefangenschaft. That they couldn't do anything for those people who were dead. So they were going to give their good, they would honor the one who had been ransomed from captivity. Okay, thank you.
Moshe.
Hat auf Jakob gewartet, seine Schwester Miriam und ihre Tochter Binela. And Josephus was waiting for Jacob, his sister Miriam, and with her daughter Binela. So haben sich gerattet noch etliche weiter Krovim. And another, so haben sich gerattet. A number of his more distant relatives had also saved themselves. Josephus allein hat sich verändert. Josephus itself had changed. Nicht zum Erkennen, it was unrecognizable. Grüße seien einmal gestanden Häuser, where there were once standing houses, is gewachsen Gras grew. Verkehrt and opposite, so haben sich früher gepascht, Ziegen, previously where goats would pasture, hat man aufgestellt Gebeien. They had put up structures. In mitten Schulhof haben sich gefunden Quorum. In the middle of the synagogue courtyard, they found graves. Der Rav, the rabbi, the Dayans, Rod Parnosim, and the majority of the more wealthy seinen gewähren übergekommene von anderen Städten, were people who had come across from other towns. Man hat Jakob aufgegeben a cheder zum Wohnen. They gave Jacob a room in which to live. Und yeah, that's right. Und man hat und man hat zu neu gekratzt vor ihm a yeshiva soll dort zogen Shir, and they managed to scratch together for him a yeshiva where he could give Talmudic lessons, so small Fargazolta, this time for Fargazol. This time he was paid for it. Die Schwester Miriam, die Sister Miriam, was Jakob hat übergelost an Agida, that whom Jacob had left a reputable woman. Hij is herumgegangen, opgerissen en opgeschissen, wandered around, tattered and torn clothing. Sie hat gehabt verloren alle Zehen. She had lost all her teeth. Sie ist nach Heaven gelaufen, Jakob mit haar geweint. She ran up to Jacob with a cry, and sie hat so nicht aufgehört kloppen, and she did not stop talking. It can be complaint, but it's a tearful complaint, und jammeren and weeping, bis sie ist zurückweg kein Zamość, until she went back to Zamość. Jakob hat sich gedacht, Jakob thought, as he is nicht beim Sinnen, that she had gone off her head. She was a bit crazy. Sie hat geheult und ihm hat Heaven getanzt. She howled and danced up to him. Sie hat gehalten in Einbrechen die Finger. She kept on cracking her fingers, kneipen die Backen, pinching her cheeks. Und ausrechnen die Pein, was die Mörder haben angetan, jeden von der Sprache, and calculate all the pain and suffering that the murderers inflicted on each member of their family. Jakob Dormont on the Farzaitika Pogarins, she reminded Jacob of the ancient previous mourners von Hatcherins was während der Mond in der Gomorrah about the people who used to clap their hands, and that is mentioned in the Gomorrah, and was reflect dingen zu beweinen ames, and that were hired to weep for someone who had died. Telmul is as if vergangen in a zoine pitchika tenor. Sometimes she went into such squeaky notes, Jacob hat sich umgehabt by the ohren, that Jacob grabbed his ears. He probably tried to block his ears. Dinala, wie bei es mir, hat man den Bäuf aufgetrennt und nach unter reingelost in Ingeweid. Dinala, woe is me, they cut open her abdomen, and they put a dog in her intestines. That had dort gebuilt, and the dog barked there, that Keller, the dog. Moshe Bunneman hat man auf a Flocken aufgesetzt, und hat ihm die Kistes durchgebeuert. Moshe Bunneman was put onto a pole, was set on a pole, and this gored drilled through his bowels. Obviously, he was set on a pole and went up the rectum. This is a known torture, and he was impaled. He was impaled on the pole via the rectum. Man hat gehört die Geschreien die ganze Nacht. His cries were heard the whole night. Seine Schwester Leon haben 20 Giovanni Manns gewählt. Your sister Leah was raped by 20 men, und noch wurden sie auf Sticker zerhackt. And after that, they cut her up into pieces. Finster und bitter is mein Welt. My world is bitter and dark. Jacob had well gewusst, als man nicht vergessen die Zorros. Jacob knew very well that one should not forget the problems. Das was werd gesagt wegen Amaleken, that which was said about Amalek is called of Allah Sonei Israel, is applicable to all the enemies of Israel. Hat von deswegen gebeten, Miriam, sie soll nicht schleudern auf ihm so viel Gräuel mit Amor. But he nevertheless asked Miriam that she should not hurl such a lot of harshness and terror on him at once, all at once. Het is door grenzen wieveel der mocht kon uitnemen. There is a limit, a boundary to how much what the brain can receive. Het is gar nicht gelegen in dem Kopf von den Odem, sich hereinzutragen in die allerrischesten und zu treuern, wie mit zu sein auf uns Aufgrüben. It was altogether not in the ability of a human being to think himself into all the evil and the sadness as should be, as one should do in the face of such a destruction. It's erger wie Urban Beit HaMikdash. It's worse than the destruction of the temple. Man hat gedacht, einführen an neuem Tisha B'Av. It was important to introduce a new Tisha B'Av, a neuem Shiva Asar B'Tammuz, a new seventh day in Tammuz. Das Jahr hat nicht gehabt genug Tag, zu sagen Kines. And this year did not have enough days in which to lament, to sagen Kines and Slikas and lamentations for so viel Kedushim, for so viel Kedoshim, for so many worthy ones. Jakob hat gehabt, auf Rang sich zu behalten, jetzt in der Kurve. Jakob had a desire to hide himself somewhere in a ruin, wo man kann schweigen und stummen, where one can just be silent. Aber Josephus is gewähnt full mit Rage, but Josephus was full of noise. Man hat gebeut Häuser, they built houses, they clapped Dächer, they nailed roofs, gemischt lime, they were mixing lime, getrogen Ziegel, they were carrying bricks. In der Bäckereien hat man gebacken Matzes, in the bakeries they were baking matzahs. In Markt hat man gehabt, aufgestellt, neue Gewölben in the market, new stores had opened. In the market seien sich wieder angekommen Päurin during the market days. Farmers, Gentile farmers were still coming. When die Dörfer from the villages, when die Dörfer herum from the villages around, den Jeden haben behandelt wie in die alte Zeiten. And Jews were doing business with them as in the old times. Man hat Jakob und ich hereingezogen in Jiddischkeit. They quickly drew Jakob back into Yiddishkeit, into Jewishness. Okay. Hat ungeschäft Wasser auf Shmura Matzes. He was drawing water for the Shmura Matzes and geholfen Walgeren die Matzes and helped to roll the Matzes out. Schieben die Matzes in oven and even shoving the matzahs into the oven. Pesachnacht hat opgericht dem Seder for Wintel Almonas. Pesach in the evening, he arranged a Seder for a group of widows. Sie ist gewesen äußerlich zu erzählen, die Nissim und Metzias Mitzrayim, da ist ein neuer Para hat ausgeführt, das, was der Alter hat sich vermochten zu tun. It was surprising, amazing to tell the miracles of the leaving Egypt when a new Pharaoh had managed to carry through what the previous Pharaoh, what the old Pharaoh had attempted to do. Jede Tfila, every prayer, jede Din, every rule, jedes Stickel Gemorra hat sich ausgewiesen, Jakob anders wie einmal. Every bit of Gemorra appeared to Jacob different than it had been. Die Kashas was Jacob hat allemal gefragt nach der Hashkofa, the questions that Jacob had always asked about how God manages the world, seinen Itz geworden als so scharf und ehrwürdig, had now become so sharp and drilling as man hat sie mehr nicht gekonnt vergessen auf eine Minute. One could not forget them even for a moment. Okay, I think my voice is going. Jakob?
Now you're fine,
Okay.
right there. Yeah.
Hat zugesehen mit Steunung, als das, was für ihm ist nahe, ist schon für die andere alt. He saw with astonishment that what seemed to him to be new was old for other people. Die Yeshiva-Bocherim haben gemacht allerlei gleichwertig, sich abgetun sticklich. The yeshiva students said all sorts of witticisms, and they played tricks.
They played what?
Younger
Excuse
light-
me? What? Shticklich, like, how do you translate that? Upgetun, shtick, like skits, like games.
Tricks, ja.
Okay. Yeah.
Mhm. Junge Leute mit geschliffenen Meuches haben wieder geflochten pschattlich. And young people with very sharp minds once again indulged in hair-splitting arguments.
Mm.
Die Seucherim seien gewinn verton mit verdienen Geld. The business people, the traders, were very much involved in earning a living, earning money. Die Weiber haben gemottelt das alte Mottelnisch. The women gossiped in the old way of gossip. Der Rebbeinu Olam hat geschwiegen das ewige Stillschweigenisch, and the master of the universe was silent in eternal quietness or silence. Jakob hat sich gesagt, als der Mensch muss tun das eigene. Jakob said that people should do the same thing. Versiegeln die Lippen und nicht opentferen dem innerwenigsten Narr auf seine Narrigkeit. They should purse their lips, and they should not call out the their innermost, the innermost fool within them concerning its stupidity. I'm not 100% sure that I understand what he's saying there. That they should keep quiet and not gossip, perhaps.
Yeah, and their foolishness. Ziegler the Lipson.
The way I saw it was not to question, because there's no answer.
Okay. Azay is a river de Pesach, and that's how Pesach passed. Die Teg von Sphira, die Yontif von Matan Torah. And that's how Pesach passed, the days of Sphira, counting between Pesach and Shavuos, and the Yontif of Matan Torah, the giving of the law. Der Guf Jakobs hat sich gehabt umgekehrt daheim, aber die Neshama ist geblieben verwogelt wie früher und öfter noch ärger wie früher. So Jacob's body had returned home, but his soul remained elusive. Perhaps even more so than earlier, weil hat mehr nicht gehabt, auf was zu hoffen, because he no longer had anything to look forward to. Hat gemusst abtreiben alle Machshavas und unfüllen jede Minute von Tag mit Meisim. He had to dispel all thoughts and to fill each moment of the day with deeds, with things that he could do. Hat gesucht schier für die Bocherim und gelernt für sich. He taught the young men, and he studied with them. Hat gedavent gesucht Tehillim. He davened and he said Psalms. Man hat gehabt rübergebracht ken Josepov a bissel zerrissenes vor ihm von anderer Städt. They brought over to Yosefov some torn books and from other towns. Und Jakob hat sich genommen, sie verlassen und zuschreiben mit gesiebeste Oisius, die Schures, und Wörter, was haben gefällt. And Yaakov began to patch these books and to add handwritten letters of the lines and the words which were missing. Das neue Besmedres hat nicht gehabt kein Schammes, und Jakob hat genommen auf sich die Tucher von der Schammes. The new study house didn't have a shamus, a sexton, and Yaakov took upon himself the role of a shamus. Is aufgestanden Tag und sich gelegt auf ein Geleger erst damals, wenn hat mehr nicht gekonnt einstehen von Mitkeit. He got up before dawn and he went to lay down on his bed only at a time when he could no longer Einstein von Midcat, he could no longer carry on because of exhaustion. Ob machshovas müssen führen oder zu taromes auf ein Beschäfer oder zurück in Dorf, in Stall, zu der Knechtschaft und zum Znus, demolt is die machshovas treif. If the thoughts had to lead to reproaches, reproaches of the Creator, or back to the village, to the stable, to slavery, and to debauchery, Damos is the machshava treif. That would make that thought treif and unclean. Sollen trachten jene, was seine Gehirn seinen Leuter. Those people should think what their brains should make clear.
I don't understand that sentence.
Huh?
They should think what their minds, Gehirn, seinen Leute.
Leute is clear.
Okay. The way I translated it was, let those whose thoughts, whose brains are clearer, let them think. Sollen sie trachten.
Okay, yeah. Sollen
Okay.
trachten jener was, yeah, that's right. You're right.
Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
very good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Die Gabaites, was haben Achtung getan auf Jakoben, haben sich gemit ihm zu vergelten für die Jahren Gottes. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The wives of the managers of the shul, which who looked after Yaakov, they tried to gloss over the years of exile, but Yaakov, Yaakov hat mit sei geführter stillen Streit. But Yaakov was in constant, quiet conflict with them. Sie haben ihm ausgebet aweg gelegen. They made a soft bed for him. Aber hat sich ausgestreckt auf einen harten Fußboden, but he stretched himself out, he lay down on the hard floor. Und so übergelegen die Nacht, and he spent the night lying on the floor. Sie haben gekocht für ihn Griezen, jächlich, aber hat gegessen Trockenbrot und vertrunken mit Wasser vom Brunnen. They cooked groats for him. They cooked soup for him. But he ate dry bread and he drank water from the well. Menschen seinen gekommen schmusen mit ihm. People would come and talk to him, chat to him, ihm ausfragen, was ist durchgegangen in die 5 Jahre, and they would question him about what he had experienced in the 5 years. Aber hat opgeantwortet bekitzer, but he answered them very briefly. Wie hat gekonnt sich führen anders? How could he have behaved in another way? Durch dem offenen Fenster von Beschmedres hat reingeguckt a Berg, wo es gelegen sein Weib, seine Kinder. Through the open window of the study house, there was a mound where his wife and his children lay buried. Es ist schon auf ihm gewachsen groß, und es haben sich gefüttert Ziegen. On this mound, grass was growing, and goats were feeding. Okay. Die Mörder haben gehabt verpeinigt Tata Mama, jeden Korov, jeden Chaver. The murderers had verpeinigt, tortured his parents, each and every relative and each friend. Jacob fleckt amol bocheweis badeuren dem Samecher Kvoresid, was lebt op die Joren auf Abesalem, neben Tarestiebel. Jacob, once as a young man, he would feel sorry for the Zamecher Jews involved in burials, those who lived their lives at the cemetery next to the room where they prepared the bodies for burial. It's is ganz Polen geworden ein Besalem, and now the whole of Poland had become a cemetery. Die andere Jiden haben sich schon aponym gehabt zugewohnt. The rest of the Jews had apparently become used to this. Aber Jakob, kon sich nicht zugewöhnen, but he, Jakob, couldn't get used to this. Es ist gewesen ein Eizer, abstellen das Schorchenisch hinteren Schädel, verzäumen dem Weg, jeden Gedank, jeden Verlang, jeder verwelchts. The only remedy for this, the only answer for this, was to stop the rustling in one's mind, to block the way of each thought, each desire, each verwelligt. Also, it's each desire. Hat gehabt, opgepasst bei sich mehr nicht zu fragen kein Kasches und nicht zu suchen kein Entfer. He made up his mind to not to ask any questions and not to search for answers. Was für ein Entfer kon den sein auf jenems maternischen? What sort of answer could there be for somebody's for somebody else's martyrdom? Einmal, wenn Jakob ist geblieben allein im Beschmedres, hat so getan zum rebellischen Oilem. Once, when Jacob was alone in the study house, he said to the master of the universe, Glaub, as du bist a kol yachol, und als was du tust, ist zum Guten. I believe that you are omnipotent, and everything that you do for good. Aber dem Wahrhafter kann ich mehr nicht mekayem sein. But your Wahrhafter, your love for the Jewish people, I think is the inference. I can't carry on with this any longer. Konisht Vater, konisht. I cannot, my father, I cannot. Nicht auf der Welt. Not, it's not anything that is possible in this world. Was
So
für
is
a
he,
Schand.
yeah, is he saying that he can't? I do believe in you, but in terms of loving you, this I can no longer do. I don't have that feeling of love anymore. Is that what he's? No.
I would agree with that because I'm subject to correction, but it reminds me, "Ve'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha v'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha v'chol modecha," and I think that's what he's referring to. We are instructed to love God as I've just said. That's part of the Shema. But so I don't know. I leave it open.
Yes, I think you can see it that way, or you could see it Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha.
Yeah.
But I think, Michael, I think you're right, that it refers to
I think they
the
both.
commandment that one should love God, and because of what's happened,
He cannot
finds
love
it
God.
almost impossible to do so.
I can believe in you. I can believe that you have the power, but that's different from loving you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Okay. Was für a Schand, nicht lieb zu haben dem Beschäfer und zu denken noch etwas a Goye in a Dorf. What a shame, a disgrace it is not to love the Creator,
Right.
and to long for some Gentile woman in a village. Von der bläuser Gerpe darf man sich begroben lebendigkeit. For this for the sheer disgrace of this, one should be buried alive. Aber was tut man mit dem Choimer Ochor und seine Glustenischen? But what can one do with the greedy flesh and its desires? Wie soll verschließt man das Mäuel dem dosigen maneuver. How can one lock up? How can one keep one's mouth shut against this contemptible thing? Jakob is gelegen auf den Fußboden und nicht gerührt mit kein Ever. Jakob lay on the floor and he didn't move his a single part of his body, his limbs. Das Fenster ist gestanden offen und es hat reingehimmelt die Nacht. The window was open and the night shone in through the window. Jakob hat gesehen dem Gang von die Mazoles. Jakob saw the way of the planets. Sterne haben sich übergerückt von Dechel zu Dechel. The stars moved from one roof to the next one. Teil haben geblinzelt. Andere haben gegliedert. Some of the stars geblinzelt, I think he's moved, and others remained fixed. Teil haben gezankt, wie lichtlich oder kinderlich. Some of them flickered like candles or like kindling. Andere haben geschimmert mit der Schein noch lichtiger von der Sonne. And others of them shimmered with a light that was brighter than the sun. Der eigene Gott, was hat gegeben Koyach die Heidemakers zu hacken Kipp und zu trennen Beicher, hat geführt mit die dosige eberste Herrschaften. The same God who gave the Haidamaks, the Cossacks, the strength to chop people's heads off and to rip out their bellies, he behaved with the same oberste Herrschaften, with the same control of godly control, perhaps. Obersten Herrschaft.
He was the one.
Herrschaft, yeah.
Herrschaft is control.
Is control.
Rule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rule.
The fear. God controlled them. He controlled the heavenly bodies the same as he controlled. That's the way I interpret it.
The Haidamai, same as he controlled the Cossacks. Yeah.
He used his power in both situations. He was present in both situations. He was present.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yes. I think that's the way.
Yeah.
Die mittennachtische Levone ist gestanden umgeringelt mit a perlemuttleren Rod. und die Gestalt in ihr hat Kinder, was Kinder pflegen sagen, als das ist Joasches Ponim, hat geglanzt gleich auf Jakoben. So the midnight moon, which stood encircled with a mother of pearl ring, and the figure in it, which children used to say was that this was Joash's face shone directly onto Yaakov.